So here's the article that we're reading. It's a position paper by the American Medical Association called the AMA, the Use of Animals in Biomedical Research. I want us to look here at the first section after the introduction. Use of animals rather than humans. What's interesting about the way this position paper is organized is that it starts with what the opponents say. Okay. It says what the opponents say. And then it gives a counter argument. And then the reason. So in other words, it does what we call they say, I say. And then why I'm right. They say, I say. This is unusual because usually when we're writing an argument, we say what I say and then give one little mention about what they say, and then we say what I say. So they've organized it the opposite way. They're going to start by saying, this is what the animal activists say. They say we should do this. Scientists say, here are our reasons. This is why we're right. And this is how this is organized. So if you look at the heading, use of animals rather than humans, what is the opposition's point of view? We use animals instead of humans. We should use humans. So let's read it and annotate together. A basic assumption of all types of research is that man should relieve human and animal suffering. Okay, commonly held belief. A basic assumption of all types of research is that man, humankind, should relieve human and animal suffering. One objection to the use of animals in biomedical research is that animals are used as surrogates for human beings. And surrogate means replacement. What does surrogate mean? Replacement. Animals are used as a replacement for human beings. This objection assumes beforehand, this objection presumes the equality of all forms of life. Animal rights advocates argue that if the tests are for the benefit of man, then man should serve as the subject of the experiments. Okay, everyone read this with me? From here. Animal rights advocates argue that if the tests are for the benefit of man, then man should serve as the subject of the experiment. In other words, the opponents say, test on people, not animals. If it's to help people, then people should be the ones tested on, not animals. Okay, so this is what opponents say. Then we're going to get the AMA's counter-argument. And it starts right here. There are limitations. However, there's your clue. However, to the use of human subjects, human experimental subjects, and what are those limits? They are ethical limits. Is it right to experiment on humans? Isn't that wrong? Such as the use of, to the use of human subjects both ethically, such as in the testing of a potentially toxic drug or chemical, right? What if it could hurt the human being? And, so that's the ethics, and in terms of what can be learned. So there are two reasons why testing on humans is not a good idea. Okay, the counter argument, we, the AMA, say it's not ethical to test on people, nor is it as useful for learning. Okay, so they say, I say, or they say, we say. Okay, and because we are analyzing what the author's doing, it goes on the left side. Now the rest of this section is going to be support for the counter argument. Why is the AMA correct? So let's look at it. What support does the AMA give for its counter argument that testing on people is not ethical, it's not right, and it's not useful for learning? Okay, so we left off right here. The process of aging, for instance, can best be observed through experiments with rats, which live an average of 2 to 3 years, or with some types of monkeys, which live 15 to 20 years. And how long do people live? People live too long for the researchers to see the long-term effects. Rats only live 2 to 3 years, so age or life cycle, lifespan. Some experiments require numerous subjects, so many numbers of people or subjects, animals, of the same weight or genetic makeup, or require special diets or physical environments. These conditions make the use of human subjects difficult or impossible. Okay, so if you have scientific conditions, look at that word, if you have scientific conditions, how can you meet those conditions with human subjects? Conditions such as same weight, same genetic background. Okay, by using animals in such tests, researchers can observe subjects of uniform, that means the same, age, and background in sufficient numbers to determine if findings are consistent and applicable to a large population. Again, by using animals in such tests, researchers can observe subjects of uniform age and background in sufficient numbers to determine if the findings are consistent and applicable to a large population. Animals are important in research precisely because they have complex body systems that react and interact with stimuli much as humans do. The more true this is with a particular animal, the more valuable that animal is for a particular type of research. One important property, one important property to a researcher is discrimination, the extent to which an animal exhibits the particular quality to be investigated. The greater the degree, let me move this up. The greater the degree of discrimination, the greater the reliability and predictability of the information gathered from the experiment. So the greater the degree of discrimination, there's a certain quality the animal has, the greater the reliability and predictability of the information gathered from the experiment. For example, dogs have been invaluable in biomedical research because of the relative size of their organs compared to humans. In other words, the size is comparable. The relative size of the organs to the body is similar to the size of the organs in humans. Okay, so organ size. The first successful kidney transplant was performed in a dog. And the techniques used to save the lives of blue babies, babies with structural defects in their hearts, was developed with dogs. Open heart surgery techniques, coronary bypass surgery, and heart transplantation all were developed using dogs. Okay, so what are we learning about dogs in research? Why are they so valuable? Okay, so dogs are valuable because they have comparable, similar organ size to humans compared to the rest of their body. And because of that, medical advances have been made. And what are those medical advances listed here? All because of dogs. Additionally, we probably couldn't have tested transplants on humans, right? Not so ethical. Okay, another important factor is the amount of information available about a particular animal. So the first thing is called discrimination, what's useful about the animal. And the second one is the amount of information we already have. So the amount of information about the animal. Mice and rats play an extensive role in research and testing, in part because repeated experiments and controlled breeding, okay? So repeated experiments and controlled breeding have created a pool of data, lots of information, of which the findings from a new experiment can be related and given meaning. So in other words, there's been so much research on rats and mice that they know so much about them. And they're also genetically similar. They can breed the rats to all be genetically similar. Their rapid rate of reproduction, if you've ever had a rat as a pet, you know this. They keep making babies, and every time they make 9 or 10 of them. Okay, their fast rate of reproduction has also made them important in studies of genetics and other experiments that require observation over a number of generations, from grandparent to parent to child, generations. Moreover, humans cannot be bred to produce inbred strains, as can be done with animals. In other words, you know what this is saying? We cannot breed humans with relatives. Ew. Okay? Moreover, humans cannot be bred to produce inbred strains, as can be done with animals. Okay? No incest, right? We certainly can't do that as a scientific experiment. That's incredibly morally, it's a terrible thing. So it's not ethical. You cannot breed humans, and you certainly can't inbreed humans. Okay? But apparently they can do that with rats, and rats don't care. Therefore, humans cannot be substituted for animals in studies where an inbred strain is essential. So if it's a genetic study where they're looking at inbreeding to look at a particular gene, something within a gene, humans are useless for this. They can't breed humans. Scientists argue repeatedly that research is necessary to reduce human and animal suffering and disease. Biomedical advances depend on research with animals, and not using them would be unethical. Not using the animals would be unethical because it would deprive humans and animals of the benefits of research. So you see what the author has done here. Okay. So if I clear all of those annotations, the author has done here is the author has said, this is what they say. They say use humans. We, the scientists, say that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea because A, it's not ethical, and B, it's not useful. You can't get the same information that you can from animal experiments. So it's not as useful. And then to back that up, what ideas do they give? What information? They say in research we value the determination of an animal, not determination, what's it called? Discrimination, which in biology apparently means something different. Discrimination, and then they talk about how dogs have comparable organ size, and that organ size has led to medical breakthroughs with transplants, with heart surgery, with saving blue babies. Whoa. We'll work on typing. Okay. Transplant. Saving blue babies. Really big, important stuff. And that would not have been possible if it had not been to that fact that dogs had the right sized organs to be able to do this experimentation on. And the second thing is, they said we know a lot about some animals. Some animals are valuable. The value of animals because of lifespan and ability to breed the animal. And they point out that scientists cannot breed humans for experiments. And then what do they do at the end? They conclude. Their conclusion is their main claim, their main argument here. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious. Which is, remove this so you can see it again, which is, scientists argue repeatedly that research is necessary to reduce human and animal suffering and disease. Biomedical advances depend on research with animals, and not using them would be unethical because it would deprive humans and animals of life-saving scientific information. So in other words, they're saying this research is necessary and it is good. And it would be unethical not to do it. Okay? This is how they've organized their argument. What do they say? What do we say? How do we support what we say? We conclude with our claim. Instead of starting with our claim, we conclude with it. And we reiterate that our research is necessary and it's good and unethical not to do so.